And thank you guys for coming out. My name is Hope Scheppelman, and I am running to be your next Congresswoman for Colorado's 3rd Congressional District. Let me ask you, who is happy with the state of affairs right now with President Trump at the helm? Thank you. So I'm going to start there. So a little bit about myself. I'm going to go into a bio, why I'm primarying Jeff Hurd, and then what I plan on running on for my positions. So I have lived in Colorado since 2010. Both my husband and I moved out here from Weehawken, New Jersey. So yes, I worked in mid-Manhattan. My husband worked in Secaucus. And we ended up actually coming out here for a lot of family Christmases. We loved Colorado and we fell in love, and it was around April of 2010, we were flying back home to New Jersey, and my husband grabbed my hand on the plane and he said, "I've never seen you so much happier than you were in Colorado. What do you think about moving?" And I looked at him and I said, "Heck yes." So within a month, we ended up moving, and we moved to Archuleta County, Pagosa Springs. We purchased our first home as veterans. I'm a United States Navy veteran, same with my husband. We served together. We were attached to the USS Harry S. Truman, an aircraft carrier that was out in the middle of the Arabian Gulf, and that's where Steve and I met. So we used our VA loan to purchase a home. And the reason I tell you this is because I'm going to talk about why I'm running and why it's so expensive for the younger generation to purchase properties. We purchased that home back in 2010 around $200,000. With the VA loan, we looked at each other and I said, "I think we can make this work." Steve was working as an IT person, and I was going to nursing school. So we ended up saying, heck yeah, we'll go ahead and sign on the dotted line, and we had our first home. As I had mentioned, I am working in the medical field. I have 35 years in medicine. From all the way, who remembers what a candy striper is? Raise your hand. Yes. That was me. I started as a candy striper all the way up to a critical care nurse practitioner. So right now, I still work as needed. The last place that I worked in a big hospital is UNMH in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And the reason I work there is because I live on the border. So I'm in La Plata County, Durango, Colorado. And so Steve and I ended up actually making this our home. My husband and I have been married for 20 years, and it's been the best thing in my entire life. He is my best friend. I am a Christian, and the big thing is I am one of President Trump's biggest fans. And the reason I tell you this is because if you go to my website, Colorado.com, you will see a photo of Steve, President Trump, and myself standing next to each other. And I talk about this is because Steve and I didn't pay to have that photo taken. We were actually selected from the President Trump's campaign, 2023, June 13th, we were invited to have dinner with President Trump. This was a very special day in his life. I don't know if he likes to remember this day, but he had to go to federal court because he had a federal indictment from the Biden administration. That day, he actually went to Miami, stood there and said he was not guilty. Then he took a plane and flew all the way up to his golf course in Bedminster, New Jersey. And that's where Steve and I were able to meet the president, have dinner with him, and I can tell you one thing, he loves the Phantom of the Opera. So that's just a little insight on who I am. politically, why I ended up getting involved. Well, let me ask you guys, because I like to get you all engaged as well. How many of you in 2020, when you went to bed, thought that President Trump was winning? How many of you woke up that next morning and were so mad and saw what happened? That was me. I remember sitting on the couch with my husband and we were having our coffee, and I just looked at him and I said, I'm so mad. I'm so mad. And he said, what are you going to do about it? And I said, I'm going to get involved. Well, 2 months later, I had somebody text me, and it was my PCP, your precinct caucus person or precinct chairperson. And he texted me and he said, would you like to come to caucus? I said, what the heck is caucus? And he said, this is the grassroots of where you can get involved and start making a change. And I said, sign me up, I'm there, what do I need to do? He said, just bring yourself, your photo ID, and we will check you in. And I did. And it was the best thing I ever did in my entire life. Rather than serving in the military and everything like that, sure, that was great, that was fine. Working as a critical care nurse practitioner, that's been amazing. But let me tell you, getting involved, grassroots, and being able to make change is truly where it's at. Who is frustrated with the state of Colorado and the direction we're going? Raise your hand.
The snow.
I think we can all agree that we are frustrated. So when I went to caucus, I signed up to be, I signed up for everything. I signed up to go to county assembly. I signed up to go to state assembly. And that was so exciting. It was thrilling to be a part of something, a movement. And I didn't stop there. So I also signed up to be the secretary for La Plata County. And that's where I started to see change with their GOP and really being involved in campaigns and door knocking and making phone calls, having conversations with your local neighbor. And that's really, really where I started to flourish. I got an email from the state party that there was a vacancy for the vice chairwoman for the Colorado Republican Party. And so in 2023, there was a vacancy special meeting. I got elected to be your guys' next vice chairwoman for Colorado in 2023 of August. And it was one of the most exciting times of my entire life, to be honest with you. I remember standing in front of a group of, I think it was about 500 or 600 people that voted for me. And my speech basically was that I'm gonna come and speak to the leadership of all 64 counties to know what you all, the leadership, really needed to make change. And I kept that promise. Now, sure, I didn't make it to all 64 counties during my tenure as your vice chairwoman, but I made it to 57. And what I have to say is it was a really big, the voices were really important to listen to. They wanted to know how to keep the PCPs engaged. How do we truly make change? Why is the party so divided? So what we really tried to focus on is really the grassroots movement. I was not reelected as your vice chairwoman for the Colorado Republican Party. This run was not on my radar at all. When I was not reelected as your vice chairwoman, I was thinking, well, I'll just do some podcasting. I'll enjoy the rest of my time with my husband on our ranch, our family ranch in La Plata County. We have 200 acres. I know what it feels like to deal with water issues on a daily basis. We always worry about water. But then I started to realize where things are going with our sitting congressman. I'm a 3 strikes you're out kind of girl. I'm a spicy girl, but also in the same sense, I really watch what you're doing. I'm a woman of my word, and I met Congressman Jeff Hurd at the inauguration of President Trump in Washington, D.C. I met him in the hallways of the Capitol. I was being toured by Jeff Crank, our sitting congressman in CD5. Congressman Jeff Hurd was touring another group of individuals. And I remember we're meeting each other in the middle of the hall, and I shook his hand, and I said, "Congratulations." And he said, "Thank you, Hope." And I said, "But I'm going to be watching you." And he said, "You should." And I said, "I'm going to watch your votes and what you put your name on, what bills you put your name on." So again, as I mentioned, I'm a 3 strikes you're out kind of girl. So that night, President Trump ended up actually pardoning the January 6th prisoners. To me, that was something that was needed a long time ago. Regardless of how people feel about those January 6th prisoners, 4 years in prison without due process is disgusting. So the next few weeks, Jeff Hurd ended up coming out, making a public statement that he didn't believe in the big swath of pardons that President Trump did. Now, to Jeff Hurd's defense, he has stated it's because he didn't believe that if a police officer was assaulted, that person should not have been pardoned. But I'm thinking about it in this instance. We know that there was infiltrators. We know that Antifa was there. We know that there were FBI agents that were there to do wrong. So no, I believe that those people should have been pardoned. I have a dear friend of mine in Archuleta County. Her son was one of those young men who had been in prison for 4 years. And he finally got the justice he needed. So that was strike 1 for me. Strike 2 is when Congressman Jeff Hurd decided to go against President Trump's tariffs. Right now, I do believe that the tariffs are really working in our favor. Sure, they are a tax on us as consumers. Ultimately, that's what a tariff is. But ultimately, if we think about the debt that we have, we need somehow, some way, he had a brilliant idea to tax China. Let's think about what China's doing. They have slave labor, forced labor, and to bring in those commodities to the United States, we need to have an equal playing field. Again, I firmly do not believe in taxing the community, taxing Americans. Jeff Hurd signed onto a bill to handcuff President Trump so that way he would have to go through Congress to get their permission to put forward any tariffs. And we're seeing that SCOTUS right now is deciding that if he can or cannot do that. That to me goes against everything that is America first. Going against the president, handcuffing him. So that was strike 2 for me. And I'm like, oh, I'm watching this guy. Strike 3, let me ask you guys, who has heard of the GORP Act? Okay, I'm glad you guys have. It's called the Gunnison Outdoors Resource Protection Act. If you don't have any knowledge of what that is, I have a 1-pager here, and let me tell you, there are a lot of people in CD3 that are so mad about this bill. And we can go into grave detail. These are his strikes. This is what he has done and gone against the 3rd Congressional District. So I'm going to talk extensively on this, and then I'll continue on. So the Gunnison Outdoors Resource Protection Act surrounds 6 counties: Gunnison, Delta, Hinsdale, Saguache, Pitkin, and Ouray County. This will lock up, and I don't care what Jeff Hurd says, this will lock up 730,000 acres of your public land. There are 2 senators from Colorado that he signed onto this bill with? Bennett and Hickenlooper, the most progressive leaning senators in the state of Colorado. That should tell everybody everything they need to know, but I'll go into the rest of it. Jared Polis, if you go to Bennett's website, you scroll down just a little bit to the 2025, there's a hyperlink. Jared Polis has publicly put it in print, thanked Jeff Hurd for signing on to this bill. That was ding, 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 ding for me. That was the biggest red flag ever. When Governor Jared Polis thanks you for something, that should make everybody's hair stand on end. So, this bill will hurt the ranching industry. And the reason it does is it puts our public lands into designations. The left knows how to manipulate words, you guys. We already know this. We saw this in our schools. We're seeing this in schools. We're seeing this in healthcare. They want to preserve. They want to make this for conservation, wilderness prevention. This puts your land into designations. 200,000 acres of your public land in that area will be designated for wilderness only. That means you will not be able to go hunting. That means you will not be able to go hiking. You will not be able to step foot on any of that. Now, the interesting thing about this bill, this has been going on for 7 to 10 years. Bennett and Hickenlooper has been going over to a lot of the county commissioners and trying to get their buy-in on this. Well, they found their patsy, Jeff Hurd, signed onto this bill as the primary House sponsor. Now, his campaign is saying he needed to have his name on it so he can actually have a seat at the table. That is a lie. That bill is actually in his committee. He can have a voice on it, he can veto it, he can amend it, he can do all he wants. Attaching your name to it now shows the public where you stand. He's trying to walk that back. Now, sure, this bill is in his committee, and it will not see the light of day right now because he has a primary. And not only have I been pushing against him, so is Sean Pond, who is now running for U.S. Senate, who was the county commissioner, who is still a sitting county commissioner in Montrose County. There has been a lot of public outrage. When the federal government wants to lock up your land, it's not for the reason that you guys think of. It's protection. That's regulation, you guys. So, how is this going to hurt our 6 counties and the surrounding counties? This is going to hurt the ranchers. They will not be able to send their cattle up to the high country to mitigate. Who here has been in ranching? Who here has raised cattle? Raise your hand. Thank you so much for doing that hard work. Thank you for feeding America. And truly, that's what this is all about. It is the Biden Green New Deal that Bennett and Hickenlooper, again, found their patsy to push their Green New Deal. So when President Trump was talking about, we have to feed America, we have to feed America beef, American beef, why is Jeff Hurd locking the ranchers out? 200,000 acres, just think about that. This bill simultaneously went alongside with the Wolf Initiative. Sure, the wolves now have been federally stopped because Governor Polis, he breached that permit and brought wolves from Canada. Holy cow, guys. So this was giving the wolves a prime breeding ground in Gunnison County and Montrose County. This winter, in this spring, they were supposed to release 15 more wolves in that area. And what would that have done? That would have driven the elk and the deer out, right? In that area, they really rely on the hunting and the tourists, right? People come to this area to hunt. So this also is going to hurt our timber harvesting. So if we think about this last summer, we had two of the hugest fires, the Lee and the Elk Fire. They are the biggest ones in Colorado's history. I have had conversations with chief firefighters, the forest industry, and they said, look, we need to be able to go in there and mitigate, thin out those forests. We can take the down timber, we can bring those to the sawmills, make those timber into lumber, to make new homes, to make the ability for a younger generation to buy affordable homes. Right now, the price of timber and lumber, is skyrocketing. And I just learned today that the regulations in Colorado are now going to double for people for building new homes. There are new rules, there are new laws that are coming into effect, and I need to really look into that. But I talked to a new home builder today, and she's like, oh, heck yes, there's going to be a 20% more cost and regulation to build new homes. In Gunnison County, they really rely on mining, as well as you think about right now with technology and energy going in the same direction right now, we need to be able to produce our own chips. We need to be able to mine, and this will go ahead and close out all the mining in Gunnison County. No more new mines. In Delta County, this is going to expire all of those wells, those oil and gas wells, and you will not be able to re-drill once those wells are expired. Again, America First is making sure that we can produce things here in America. This means also being able to produce oil and gas, mining, ranching, and the jobs that this is actually going to hurt. There is a sawmill in Montrose County that will go under if this bill goes through. That is close to 200 direct jobs and an additional 200 indirect jobs that it will affect. Not only the millions of tax revenue that would go into these counties. So again, guys, that was strike 3 for me. I threw my hat in because of the fact that our voices are not being heard in Washington. When you run as a candidate and you say, I am going to be conservative, I'm going to be your voice, I hold you to that. But when you are starting to vote now more with the Democrats, heck no, you need to be fired and somebody else needs to be in there. I have had a lot of people come and ask me to run after the Gorp Act took legs. I had to sit down with my family and really think about this because I already know the fire that this is going to, come through when it comes to running as a candidate, putting your life on the line, not only your family life, but holding that back, meaning you can't spend time with your family. You're on the road all the time. I'm a servant, and I have always been a servant. My grandfather was a World War II veteran. He served in the 1st Cavalry. Before that, he was born and raised in Bisbee, Arizona. He was one of 11. His mother died at childbirth, trying to deliver the 11th child. And my grandfather's father took the older kids and said, I can keep you guys here on the ranch and farm and do all that stuff. The younger kids he took to an orphanage and my grandfather was one of them. At the age of 17, if I can remember correctly, my grandfather decided to enlist into the Army. And again, he served in World War II. And that was the thing that really stuck with me, is my grandfather knew that it was important to serve this country. After he got out and he went back to Bisbee, Arizona, he met my grandmother. They had some kids. He worked at the Copper Queen, the copper mine there. There was a cave-in, and the reason I'm talking to you guys about this is because it's really important. This is who I am. There was a cave-in. My grandmother had babies and was worried, just like the rest of the community, if there was any survivors. All of those miners survived. My grandmother and my grandfather had a conversation. My grandfather left mining and decided to actually start working for St. Patrick's, the church there. And he took his family afterwards. He took his family out to Sacramento, California, started a ranch, and that's where I learned the rural way of life, is watching my grandfather ranch, raise cattle, farm, with all of the produce that he made. I know that a lot of candidates come in and talk to you guys and say they are conservative. The one thing I can tell you is how conservative I am is when I was your vice chairwoman for the Colorado Republican Party, who remembers when corrupt Jenna Griswold tried to keep President Trump off of the ballot? Raise your hand. Our administration got into that fight. We said, heck no, we are not going to allow somebody that corrupt to take President Trump off the ballot. We signed on to that lawsuit, and we went all the way up to SCOTUS, and we won. We stood shoulder to shoulder with President Trump's lawyers, and we beat Jenna Griswold. Regardless of what people think of President Trump, and if they didn't like him, if they didn't want to vote for them, they should have the ability to vote him in or not vote for him. So, what I can tell you a little bit about why, again, I'm running is there's the 3 strikes you're out. But again, there's so much more about Jeff Hurd right now. So, there is a PAC called American for Prosperity. Who knows of them? Raise your hand. Okay. Not a lot of people, and I'll kind of explain it. So American for Prosperity is kind of a branch off from the Koch brothers. Who knows the Koch brothers? Okay, I should have at least started there, right? So the Koch brothers, there was 2, there's now 1, Charles Koch. He owns one of the largest private companies in the world. That tells you how important this guy is. So Charles Koch has American for Prosperity. They used to be pretty right-leaning. They don't talk about social issues, but now they're starting to go more towards the Biden New Green Deal when it comes to economics and policy stuff. So Jeff Hurd was bought and paid for by American for Prosperity. And how we know this is you go to the fecfiling.org, fec.org. You type in American for Prosperity Action PAC. You go down and you actually look at the expenditures for 2024. And I just showed you this at dinner. The very first person that comes up is Nikki Haley. Yes. $30 million. And why I tell you this is American for Prosperity endorsed Nikki Haley. You can Google that right now. American for Prosperity endorsed Nikki Haley in the 2024 race over President Trump. They spent $30 million supporting her. Right underneath, you'll see they spent $10 million opposing President Trump in the swing states. And then a little bit further down, you can see Jeff Hurd's name, support $1.1 million. And I can bring that up on my cell phone later on after my speech. This is why Jeff Hurd could not talk to you about if he would have supported President Trump or if he voted for President Trump 2016, 2020, or 2024. They were hoping it would be Nikki Haley. And if you see in his text messages, or not text messages, in his social media posts, or when he comes and talks to you guys here, he never says President Trump. He will say the president. He doesn't really acknowledge President Trump. Sure, President Trump, and I'm very transparent about this, I don't hide this, President Trump has endorsed Jeff Hurd. And how we know this is because he ended up coming out with 10 other endorsements that same day. I think it was September 18th or 19th, it came out. And it was because whoever voted for the one big beautiful bill has been endorsed. Again, President Trump has to keep the House, right? But we know that Jeff Hurd doesn't support President Trump. I think President Trump ended up holding his nose and going, okay, we'll do this huge swath. There's a lot of people that despise President Trump that are Republicans and call themselves conservatives in Congress. And so I tell you this because people are going to say, but Jeff Hurd was endorsed by President Trump. Sure, but has he been voting with him recently? No. Last week, I was in Washington, and I was talking to a lot of congressmen and congresswomen, and they definitely know that Jeff Hurd is not in their camp. This race is on their radar. And the one thing last week, Jeff Hurd ended up voting and going against the Republican delegation, breaking off from them, and he voted to keep the NED funded. The NED, guys, is an NGO companies overseas. These are really, truly the most woke-leaning NGOs. And they are corrupted, and they were the ones who were putting out a lot of information against President Trump during the last election. Jeff Hurd decided to fund them. Again, Jeff Hurd last week decided to continue funding the corrupt and rogue federal judges that have now voted for LGBTQ, all of that transgender ideology. This is the same judge that would not hold the individual that tried to assassinate Kavanaugh. Again, Jeff Hurd decided to continue funding. And then lastly, as a critical care nurse practitioner, I am appalled that Jeff Hurd decided to vote for Obamacare subsidies for another 3 more years. I have seen firsthand what Obamacare has done to our communities, what it has done to you guys in your premiums and your deductibles. The fact that insurance companies are making the decisions between a patient and a physician, that's disgusting. Sure, we need to have something in place. And President Trump and Rand Paul actually have a really good vision, and it is something that I can get behind. We need to have insurance companies be able to have an open market across state lines. Because if you want to go to the Mayo Clinic, you should be able to, and your insurance company should be able to pay for that. If you want to just have catastrophic insurance, you should be able to pay for that. But here in the state of Colorado, we do not have that option. We have limited insurance companies, and you want to know why? It's because of our corrupt Governor Jared Polis, who has decided to allow abortions, transgender surgeries for minors, surgical mutilation, chemical castration of our children. A lot of insurance companies don't want to deal with that. But Jeff Hurd voted to fund those insurance companies, to allow those insurance companies to come into Colorado and to abort babies at 40 weeks, to change little Johnny into a Ginny at the age of 10. Sure, federal funding is not going to fund that, but he's funding that insurance company to allow that to happen here in Colorado. And I say no. As your next Congresswoman, I will continue to fight for your parental and grandparental rights of your children. I believe that our parents and our grandparents need to be able to have school choice. If you want to raise your child and to be able to send them to a charter school or even homeschool, that money should follow the kid. Jeff Hurd refuses to talk about the social issues. I'm a Second Amendment absolutist. You should not even have to have a permit to conceal and carry. That goes against the Second Amendment. You also need to be able to say no when it comes to taxes. No more taxing. And what Jeff Hurd just voted for with the Obamacare is now sending your taxpayer money to give insurance to illegal aliens. I don't know about you all, but we should not be having our hospital communities, our rural communities, inundated with people that are not here legally. There is a legal way. I believe in immigration wholeheartedly, but there's a legal way of doing this. Jeff Hurd refuses to talk about that. He refuses to talk about mass deportation. I am for it. We need to have a process. You break the law, you break rules. We cannot just continue to turn a blind eye. We are seeing what has happened in Minnesota. It needs to stop. So, why am I running? It's because of all of this. We need true representation. We need somebody who is going to say no. I will not raise your taxes. I signed a pledge on that. Jeff Hurd refuses to sign that pledge. I have already signed a pledge for term limits. Jeff Hurd refuses to sign that pledge. I have vocalized and continue when I make videos, I am not going there to get rich. I refuse to get involved in insider trading, and I refuse to dabble in it. Jeff Hurd has refused to talk about that. These are the two options, you guys. I am here to fight for your family rights. When I leave Washington to come home during the weekend, I am going to be here, not in Washington, not going to galas, not going to this. I don't want to go to Washington. I was just there last week. It's not my favorite cup of tea. But what I am here to do is I am really ready to fight for what we need to get back to and what our founding fathers really wanted us to be all about. Limited government, no more taxes, making sure that we really get rid of all of the regulations. I will not vote for any omnibus bills. I will not vote to have earmarks. I will vote if it's good for our district. I'll vote yes. And I want your input. If it's going to hurt our district, like the Gunnison Outdoors Resource Protection Act will hurt us, I will vote no, or I will never put my name on it. Lastly, I am going to bring my own staff. meaning the people that I surround myself with are people that are honorable, that will hold me accountable, and I will hold them accountable. What happens when people go and get elected to Washington is they take on their old staffers, the old congressman staffers, the old congresswoman staffers. They're the ones who know what's going on. And they're the ones that are leading those people into why they're voting the way they are. I will not align with special interest group, any lobbyists. One thing I will promise you is that there will always be somebody returning phone calls or emails, or if I walk into that office and the phone is ringing and nobody is there to answer it, I'm going to answer it. I don't expect anybody to do my work unless I'm willing to do that work too. I'm a United States Navy veteran. Let me ask you, who here has served? Raise your hand. Thank you for your service. Our veterans have been forgotten. And they have been forgotten not only here locally, but up in Washington. And I have a story to tell you about that. I have a young woman in La Plata County, and she has given me permission to talk to you guys about this. She was diagnosed with a life-altering diagnosis, reached out to Jeff Hurd's office to get something signed off so she can get a specific blood work. They refused to call her back. They refused to email her. She confronted his staffer at a GOP meeting. His staffer said, I will get back to you. They still have not gotten back to her. She reached out to Bennett's office. They got it done in 24 hours. That's sad to say. So, I am running to be your next Congresswoman, and I am asking for your vote. And the reason I am asking for your vote is twofold. I refuse to pay to play. I refuse to get signatures to be placed onto the primary ballot. Not to say that if the GOP, the state GOP, forced me to try to do that, I still would not. I believe going in front of you and asking for your vote. I want you guys to ask me questions. I want you guys to feel comfortable sending me as your next Congresswoman to represent you. I have in April 10th will be CD3's assembly. And so why I told you the story about me being a PCP and signing to be a delegate at the county assembly and the state assembly is because I'm asking you, if anything I stated tonight resonates with you, if you need more information, go to my website. But I would be honored to have your vote April 10th. And then to end things, sure, Jeff Hurd got President Trump's endorsement, but I ended up actually getting General Flynn's endorsement. Had a wonderful conversation with the man. Truly an American patriot. And there's the letter back there. I had no input on that. He actually sat down and wrote that for me. This December, we ended up actually putting forward a lot of your guys' donations, and we got a poll. Because it's important for you guys to know, can she win? You know, because there's going to be a lot of money put up from Jeff Hurd. We're thinking he's going to have about $3 million. This poll, which is back there, it was done by Rasmussen Reports. Who has heard of them? Anybody? Okay, good. So Mark Mitchell, he actually went to Washington with me and talked to some of the legislators as well. And we ended up, the poll came out there was 29 questions. And one of the first 10 were, hey, if the election was today, who would you vote for, Jeff Hurd or Hope? And they said Jeff Hurd, because some of them were like, well, we know who Hope is, so we'll vote for Hope. But here's the telling thing, you guys. A freshman incumbent should be leading a poll by 20 to 30 points, okay? When just his name and my name, he was only leading by 9 points. That means there was a pathway, okay? So it gets better. So here's the thing. The questions were asked and the voter was informed of all the things that I just told you. That question was asked again, one of the last questions. If the election was today, who would you vote for based on the information you now have? I lead Jeff Hurd by 6 points. I went from 15 and jumped to leading him by 6. That is huge. Again, this is like a Lauren Boebert move, you guys, when she was trying to out Scott Tipton. Sure, Tipton ended up getting President Trump's endorsement, but it's you guys. You guys see through it all. You guys look at the policies, how he's voting. And that's why it's so important to be informed. So again, I'm asking for your vote tonight, and I certainly appreciate the time today. Thanks, guys. And I want to know, ask me questions.
Does President Trump know what a snake he is?
So I guess the question was, and I'm going to try to repeat these questions. Does President Trump know what type of snake he is? I don't have the ear of the president, but I do know that there was a social media blitz. I did forget to talk about this. There's just so much to talk about. When Charlie Kirk was assassinated, Ilhan Omar spoke publicly and put on social media vile and disgusting comments about Charlie Kirk. She was beating that drum, guys, from that base. We are seeing that base and what is happening in Minnesota right now. Those words, regardless of the fact that we all have our First Amendment rights. We can say whatever the heck we want. But those words, as they come out of our mouth, they have repercussion, and we also need to stand behind them. So if they are hurtful, we need to be able to stand behind them. Jeff Hurd decided not to hold Ilhan Omar accountable for her disgusting and vile comments. There was a resolution that was presented to the body, to Congress, by Representative Nancy Mays. Jeff Hurd was one of 4 that broke ranks from the Republican Party. Even Thomas Massie, who is the most constitutionalist of them all, decided not to vote for the One Big Beautiful Bill because he stands firmly in not adding to the debt. He wanted to hold her accountable. The most constitutionalist congressman, regardless of the fact of her First Amendment rights, said, no, we need to start holding people accountable for their disgusting and vile comments. You as a congressman need to have decorum. So the answer is yes. President Trump definitely knows about Jeff Hurd, but again, he's looking at it in a playing field that he has to keep the majority. He looked at it, probably held his nose and said, okay, we'll just deal with them all. We'll go ahead and endorse them all. So that's a long answer to your question. Yes, ma'am.
I have a few, but I want to start out with this one, and it's probably the most important to me. Mm-hmm. How are you going to unite the Republican Party? We are a mess.
Oh, yeah.
Just get on some of those social social media, and I'm certain that you have, and the vile comments back and forth, like, we're just a mess.
We are.
So how are you the solution to this problem?
So we tried during our administration, but I'm going to be honest with you, there is so much of a division between true conservatives, and then we know there's infiltrators. I mean, we do. I mean, it's not like we see that with our open primaries, guys. And when there's letters to the editor in my own county in Durango, Colorado, and the Durango Herald during the 2022 election, and people are saying, hey, Democrats, change to unaffiliate, and then so that way you can vote in the Republican primary. Again, we know there's infiltrators in our own party. I don't know how to bridge that gap. I know where my values are. I'm pro Second Amendment. I'm pro life from conception to natural death. I believe in limited government. I believe in not taxing you, making sure that we deregulate. But then when we have Republicans go against that party platform or even our moral fiber beliefs, but they're still beating that drum and saying, no, I'm a Republican, I don't know how to fix that. I don't know what to do with that. All I can tell you is I am who I am because I am truly a conservative. And if Republicans don't want to get on board because we're conservatives, then we maybe need to look at be a party where they're unaffiliate or maybe not. I don't know how to bridge that gap. We tried to air everything and open all the books and say this is all the fraud and abuse that has happened in the GOP party for 20 years. We opened those books. There was embezzlement going on, but yet we were attacked for showing that. So I don't know how to answer that. All I can say is I will have conversations, have meaningful conversations, but I will not bend a knee to reach across the aisle.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. And then do you mind just helping me clarify a few things because I'm not sure if I wrote them down wrong. I think initially you said that the GORP impacted 700,000 acres, and then you spoke repeatedly about 200,000 acres. Where are those numbers coming from?
So it's going to lock up 730,000 acres, and it's because there's designations, and right here shows the designations. The most egregious designation is the one that is actual wildlife conservation, and that is going to lock up the 200,000 acres that you can't walk on.
Okay. I think you used the word wilderness designation, and typically the state has defined wilderness as just no off-road vehicles, no motorized vehicles. So it could be horse and foot. So I just want to clarify that that's different than what you're saying.
That is correct.
Okay.
This is these are new designations.
Okay.
And feel free to take this.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yes.
Can I add something to this?
Yes.
I have our family ranch, which has been in our family over 100 years. And one of the things that Polis has done is he's put out new designations for if they find an endangered species.
Right.
And it can be a bug, it can be a frog, whatever. Well, what's happening, and they tried to do this in our area, which is north of Rifle. They wanted us ranchers to sign a document stating that we would allow water conservation folks to come in on our property because we have Rifle Creek that runs through our properties all the way 325, all of us do. And I kept saying, this doesn't seem right. What's the whole deal about it? Well, come to find out, they're coming from Front Range. So what's to stop somebody from coming into our properties and having a frog or something in their backpack and saying, oh, look what I found, snapshot. That shuts my property
Yeah.
down. I can't use it for any ranching anymore, of any kind.
Make them strip naked and then.
Yeah, no, we didn't allow anybody to do it, but that's what he's pulling.
Right, and I wanted to dig a little bit deeper into this. There is waterheads. We know water is the lifeblood of Colorado, guys. We need to keep our water. There is a waterhead that is there. They're not talking about it, but if this actual bill gets out of committee, passes the House and the Senate, and God forbid if President Trump signed it, this now will give the federal government to allocate federally if they need to reallocate water to the Front Range. It would not go downstream to the rest of the ranchers or your ditches or anything like that. So you're absolutely right. Certain wilderness, yes, you can still, it's off limits to off-road vehicles and stuff like that. This is now taking you even ability to walk on that property.
Thanks for the clarification.
Any other?
What are you gonna do? What's the plan to stop that?
Well, we have been very vocal on social media. There has been a petition already been going around, as well as we have been asking people to call Jeff Hurd to take his name off of it. He has now buried that in committee. And again, if he wins the primary, that bill will come out of committee and it will pass through the House, will pass through the Senate, and hopefully if President Trump looks at it, and I'll be out there with a bullhorn outside of the White House saying, please don't sign this. So again, call your congressman. Tell him you do not want his name on this bill. There's another thing. So land grabs federally are really hot right now, guys. There is now a bill that Bennett and Hickenlooper signed on to. It's called the Dolores NCA Act, the Dolores River NCA. That is actually going to lock up land on the Dolores River. There is actually a House representative here in Colorado, Larry Don Sukla.
Oh, yeah.
His land, his family land, is going to be taken away, parts of it, if that actually goes through. People in the commissioners in La Plata County, Montezuma County, and there's a couple of other counties, are publicly asking Jeff Hurd, and they're pushing him to put his name on this. I've put on social media, I'm watching you, I'm seeing what you're doing. He has not made a public statement about that. But again, the more that you can start vocalizing and telling them that this is not what you want, they went to truly 20 county commissioners. It's only county commissioners they went to. In those county commissioners, there's 13 that are Democrat, 5 that are Republican, and 2 that are unaffiliated. And those 20 county commissioners made the decision to say yes, that we want to lock up that land for the GORP. In the last 7 to 10 years, there had been NGOs that have made public comments about this. Those NGOs, if you look at them and look them up, they're all left-leaning. Some of them are being funded by Bill Gates. This is big stuff, guys. And the moment they start locking up your land, taking your public lands away, that's taking away your liberty.
That's right.
So,
I listened to a real good podcast this morning, and what we need is a good sheriff. And I'm not pointing fingers at Mr. Wright over there, but the sheriff really is the last bastion of security we have against an oppressive federal government that is unconstitutionally coming into our states and doing stuff like that. And we gotta have a strong sheriff that'll stand up for our Second Amendment rights.
Yep.
Everything in the Constitution stand up for that, and there is nothing in the Constitution, it says the federal government can come in and do that stuff. It's
Yep.
the 10th Amendment. It's up to the states. Of course, we got communists in charge in Denver now, but it's the sheriff's is a very, very powerful position. And if anybody wants that forwarded to them, just hand me your email address and I'll forward that.
I will.
It's a really
You
good
have
topic.
Yeah. But to that point, local is the most important thing to get involved with, regardless of if it's library boards, school boards, county commissioners, city council.
State entities.
We need more conservative voices, you guys. I know that we feel like our backs are up to the wall, but this election is one of the most important elections. If Bennett gets the governorship, guys, we're done in Colorado. Yeah, but I think it's going to be more. But let's talk a little bit about election integrity, okay? I am for in-person voting, paper ballots, voter ID, getting rid of the machines, just like President Trump is all about. Again, the reason I talked about the 2020 election is because that's where it all focuses for me. When we are seeing Tina Peters locked up the way she is and just getting assaulted last night, and Governor Polis is now, quote, saying, maybe that's a little harsh, 9 years. Come on, guys, we have to see the writing on the wall. When we ended up actually arresting Maduro and bringing him here to New York, he has all the answers, guys.
What's even worse about that Tina Peters thing is they signed a letter. Every clerk and recorder signed to keep her in there.
Yeah.
Every one of them.
Yeah.
Now, I get it. They're being threatened. They don't want to go there. I get it. You know, and stuff like that, but that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Just like January 6th.
And I have been vocal on
Intimidation.
social media. I have been vocal, and I'm going to be on quite a few podcasts about it, because what they have done is they have now silenced her. She can't talk about anything. That's exactly why that judge did what he did, and that's why he sentenced her for 9 years, is because he's like, he even said in his statement something that she's a charlatan and she's, talking about it and all this stuff. Well, that's why he ended up locking her up. He didn't want her to have a voice anymore. So, again, Jeff Hurd refuses to talk about that. Tina Peters was from his own county, guys. Regardless of the fact if he's a true constitutionalist, he should have at least talked about her and what has happened to her.
Well, you're nice. You give him 3 strikes. I asked him when he was running where he stood on abortion. And it is, well, don't use but with me. You're either for it or you're not, but
So-
don't use a but with me.
And again, I thank you for bringing that up. As a critical care nurse practitioner, before I got my degree, I served as a trauma nurse, PACU nurse at Mercy Regional Medical Center. And I can tell you firsthand that you save both mom and baby no matter what. When the left or moderate Republicans want to use, well, we have to look at saving one or the other. No, there's 2 teams there. They save mom and baby. They do both. So it's a complete lie when they say, well, we'll abort the baby because it's to save the mom's life. I have seen my OBGYNs break scrub, grab another doctor and say, you take the baby, I'm taking mom. So no, I believe for me, I don't believe the fact that you should have an abortion if there's incest. That's my personal belief. Incest, rape, to me, I don't believe in that. Yeah. I believe, we have options. We have options today. We are in the 2026, guys. We need to also look at adoption. My girlfriend in Texas, and again, I've been given permission to talk about this, she wasn't able to have kids at a young age. She had a hysterectomy at a very young age. And she would love to adopt a baby.
But they make it so expensive here.
Yeah, and all of the regulations, yes.
Yeah.
And so
So they go overseas, that's why they go overseas.
right, and we need to be able to have tax incentives or some type of credit or something like that to help with that, to be able to place families together. So again, these are the things that I'm willing to talk about. These are the things that I'm willing to fight for. It's not just economics and policy and stuff like that. I'm willing to fight for everything.
And that's the problem with the Republican Party, is that's where we're divided on so
Yes.
much of it. Because so many people are against abortion, or for
For
abortions.
abortion.
They're for, it's your life, you can love whoever
Yeah.
you want to love type of stuff. And that's where the division, where the Democrats, oh, you slept with so-and-so, oh, go for it.
Yeah.
You killed so-and-so, oh, go for it. That's what the Democrats do. They don't care what they do. But the
Right.
Republicans are so divided in those areas.
When you have seen a mom, I was in the PACU for a week. I just started this job. And when you actually see a mom holding a baby because that umbilical cord got stuck around its neck and the baby was delivered dead, and she doesn't want to hold the baby. And then I go in and talk to her and give her whatever medication she needs. And then as I'm leaving the room, she looks at me and says, please, I want to see my baby. Had the NICU bring the baby. And to have her hold that baby, and I still remember her crying, and her cry, I still can hear it. That's the stuff that I'm fighting for. I'm fighting to be able to be that voice of that mom who lost her baby. I'm here to be the voice of the 14-year-old that I had to withdraw care from because of a fentanyl overdose, that had talked to the mom and the dad and say, I'm sorry, your son is brain dead. And then to ask if they would actually do the most honorable thing and give organs to bring in another life, to extend other lives. Those are the tough things that I've already been through and seen. I've had a family member die in 2019 because of fentanyl overdose. I'm here to really I want to shake things up because I've lived all of that. I want to be your guys' representative. And it's not for titles or anything like that. It's to represent that mom that was holding her child because of the fact that she didn't get the care that she really truly deserved because of Obamacare. I want to be that advocate to that mom and dad who had to withdraw care from their 14-year-old because of the fentanyl cartel that is bringing in fentanyl into our country. But Jeff Hurd refuses to talk about the fentanyl crisis. So yes, there's a lot that I want to fight for.
Well, you answered my one question about petitioning. So do you know if he's going to? Because he did
He's
last
already
time.
pulled a petition. I don't know if he's going to go through the hybrid, meaning if he goes through assembly, he would only have to get 10% of the vote, where I am going to present myself into front of the delegation, and I'm going to need 30% or more to get onto the primary ballot. If I don't get the 30%, then you all have voted, you guys have voiced that you want that to continue with the representative that you have. And I'm okay with that, but because this is your choice. This is not about me. It's never been about me. Anything else? Yes, sir.
I just want to say that, I went to state last year, and your story about your history of politics, I'm surprised because I was really impressed at how you did as vice chair.
Thank you.
And you and Dave made a great team. It was amazing. And sorry we're not still there, but
I know.
you really impressed me.
Well, thank you.
What you did as a vice chair, and I wish you the best of luck. I do have a voting record thing here that I want to pass on because you missed 3 of his screwed up votes. But anyway, he was at a meeting at our Vino and Veritas,
Yes.
and I handed him all of Scott Tipton's votes. Scott Tipton retired at 67% constitutional, F
Wow.
in my book. Scott McGinnis was even worse. He was down there 57% constitutional. And anyway, this is the first index that came out of his first 6 months of last year. I'm gonna give it to you. You can read each. It's only 10 votes.
Is that a did he get a 67 on that one?
This is on the New Americans. They pick, it's really hard to pick a vote because there might be other trash on there.
Right.
So when you're talking stuff, I'm well aware that, you know, maybe there was other stuff, other reasons why he didn't vote. So unless you see all the issues
Right.
that he voted no on, it's like, okay, well, he swayed that way. And I personally think Trump should have vetoed his own big bloated bill, but I'm really conservative and really constitutional.
Yep. So Jeff Hurd is going to be bringing in probably around $3 million. My husband and I have put in $120,000 of our own money. We have raised a little over $230,000 with my contribution. I am asking you guys tonight, if you could give $5 or more to the campaign. If you like what you heard, I would appreciate it. There's envelopes there. Or you can go donate on my website at hopefor, F-O-R, Colorado.com.